Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. I really want to know the end of that sentence. Welcome in, everybody. Jesse Montano and Meghan Angley, Avs post-game as they fall to the Chicago Blackhawks 3-1 in Chicago. And Meghan, you and I were both just saying, I don't think I'd want to watch that game again. That was maybe the worst game of the year. Not even like in the way that they played necessarily, but oh my gosh, that was so boring, so uneventful, and just no energy the entire game. Like no energy in the building, no energy from really even like either team. Even Chicago wasn't like buzzing all over the ice. Kind of a pretty blah game.
I was saying before we went live, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, which is really dramatic, but it's because I've known someone in my life who doesn't take accountability for their actions.
Ooh, okay.
And they do just enough to give the appearance of effort.
Mhm.
Like, I'm taking these steps to make my life better, but they're not actually taking any steps to make their life better. The Avs played hockey just enough to give the illusion of playing hockey, to give the appearance of making effort to win this game. But they got worse in every aspect of their game as it went on. And that frustrates me because you look at this analytically at the end and you wouldn't say just by the numbers they played badly. And there's bursts of effort. I can pinpoint shift by shift areas where I noticed effort.
Yep.
But it's just enough to give the appearance of trying, when on the whole, it's just not good enough. And you didn't really try. You just did enough to make it look like you did.
I think that's the best possible analysis you could give in this game. And truthfully, we can maybe even show this super chat from Vaguely Sober and end the show because I think it wraps it up so perfectly. Burn the tape on this game. That's right. Cue the super chat lights. Cue the super chat lights. Burn the tape on this game. And the Avs need to move on to Minnesota. Vaguely Sober could not be more correct. It's raining dollar signs inside the Guerilla Sports studio. It was not raining high event scoring opportunities for anybody. It was not raining entertainment. It wasn't raining at all inside United Center for the entire game. Shout out again to Vaguely. So, and you know, we're going to, because of the way that game went and the fact that it was so much not fun to watch, we're going to start tonight's postgame show by giving a shout out to our guy Vaguely Sober, who sent this adorable wooden cat to the Guerilla Sports Studios.
Big stretch.
We did look it up. It looks like wooden cats are supposed to bring prosperity, good fortune, all that stuff. Vaguely, I'm not sure if those were your intentions when you sent it, but we are going to take the prosperity and good fortune, whether you meant it or not. Big shout out to Vaguely Sober. And yeah, the wooden cat can join the woodshed. We've got Miles Wood, we've got Mackenzie Blackwood, Scott Wedgwood, and now we got Guerilla Sports wooden cat.
And
so
he says Wedgwood too, like it's a wedge in the door, and it is made of wood.
Oh man,
which is very adorable.
Wow, I love this. Every second that we have it longer, it makes more and more sense. It's my personal totem. Well, we've now got a piece of Vaguely Sober here in the studio. We'll find a nice permanent home for it on the set. We wanted to make sure. Here, I'll put it in front of your computer for some prosperity and good fortune for postgame.
I need some of that.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about this game reluctantly. I don't even want to relive the boringness. Meghan, let's start off the top. It felt like the Avs got off to a decent start in this game. Or dare I say, even pushing pace in this game, controlling pucks early before things started to get away from them. Does that add to the frustration from your part of the way that they finished this game was, hey, we saw good play for an extended period of time in the first period?
Yes, because that was real hockey. They make the rookie mistake and we say, okay, you can't make the rookie mistakes in front of the rookie netminder, clean it up. But this was an otherwise good period from the Avs. And the effort matched the result in ways. They obviously allow a goal against because of the rookie mistake, but they did a lot of the right things too. But then they stopped. doing a lot of the right things, and they allowed more grievous mistakes, and they started to stack. At one point, the giveaways was led by Chicago through 2 periods, but Avs run away with the turnovers by the end of this game. So they not only don't eliminate those mistakes, but they don't make up for it with meaningful chances. And so that's where my assessment of the time spent in the offensive zone past the first period became less meaningful, less dangerous. That's not going to be good when Mrazek got better as the game went on. And so that's where I think they underestimated the competition a little bit. And to your point, you mentioned when they left the first period tied, there was maybe this sense of, well, it's 1-1 against Chicago. We don't have anything to worry about. And they definitely should have worried a little more.
There was a comment that just came through the chat that said this feels like some role reversal karma back in the 2010s when the Hawks were just stacking Stanley Cup championships. They seemed like they couldn't beat the lowly Avs at that point, who were always at the bottom of the league.
Yes, I remember those years.
And roles have definitely reversed. To your point about the way that the game, you said that the offensive zone pressure got less and less seemingly in every 5-minute chunk after the halfway point of that first period. My biggest issue with this game, looking at it, is the intensity went down. There was even a play there in the third period where it looked like it was going to be a relatively easy icing. The Chicago player kind of even stood up and kind of forfeited, and Devon Toews stood up with him. And suddenly it turned into this like kind of last second little sprint to get to the hash marks, because when the Chicago player saw Toews stand up, he started skating a little bit harder. And it's like, what are we doing here? You're down by 2 goals, and that's a free icing for you to get back up ice and get an offensive zone faceoff, try to establish some zone time, and you're going to coast into that with someone on your back? It was just those types of things where it really did just seem to me like maybe this was a game where I bring it up often. A couple of years ago during the Stanley Cup run in 2022, there was a bad game that they had against St. Louis. And we talked to Josh Manson, and he gave the example of sometimes you wake up and you're running a 6-minute mile. Other days it's 12. Now, like I always say, for the record, never a 6-minute mile for me, but I don't know where he's coming from on that. But he was just trying to use the example of there's just some days where you don't have your legs. And he said, and when that happens, you're fighting, you're digging for anything that you can get because you just don't have your legs. This to me was a game where the Avs just didn't have their legs, and they weren't going, and just no matter what they did, they weren't going to get fully engaged in the game. Look, it's an 82-game season. It happens. The Avs just went on an 8-game point streak, are 13-3-1 now in their last 17 games. Like, this is far from a reason for panic or anger or anything like that. But this was a game, no doubt about it. The Avs did not have their legs, and they let a much lesser opponent kind of take it to them.
Well, and I think where I granted them the teensiest, tiniest of allowances is in playing 11-7. You're going to have some line combinations that don't often play together in games. And so some of those miscues, I think, are understandable. But that's where I think they underestimated weaker competition, like going 11-7 then and having some unusual line combinations out there. Were you not solid enough in systems that even a vulnerable Chicago Blackhawks team can capitalize on your mistakes? And that's the other issue too, is Chicago was making mistakes of their own, turning over the puck. You didn't capitalize on their mistakes as much as they did on yours. And that's where it's back to the energy and it's back to the effort. To your point, they just didn't seem to have their legs under them. Look, this finishes 27 minutes for Devon Toews, 29 minutes for Cale Makar.
You beat me to it.
Cale Makar's on the ice for a 4.5+ minute shift at the end of this game. That should not have happened, especially in the first game of a back-to-back. They put themselves in position to be trying to force 2 goals in the final minutes of the third period. They just did this with Buffalo, and it was already hard. You don't get to do the same magic trick twice. You shouldn't put yourself in that position. And so that's where the luck ran out for them a little bit. And I think where they're exposed a little bit too were some of just not enough energy is exposed in the final minutes of this game. And I'm sympathetic. Cale Makar should not be on for such a long shift. And all of the top guys should not have had to play that many minutes because they're 11-7. I think some of that was to be expected, but it's also born out of necessity and desperation because they were chasing this game. The minute they left the second period, look, they start the third period with a great shift from this Colton, Middlestat, and Anala line that wasn't like a formal line tonight. And then Parker Kelly's line follows it up with a good rush up ice and another chance, and then a McKinnon breakaway, and then a Malinsky 3-on-1, and then the effort just kind of stopped. And that's what frustrates me is that was probably only the opening 6 minutes of the third period. There's still 14 minutes left of hockey, and then they're chasing it in those final 3 minutes. There's a good amount of hockey that happens in between where the effort's just not good enough.
Nathan McKinnon, 27-19. Mikko Rantanen, 27-10. Devon Taves, 27-43. Cale Makar, 29-34. Keaton Middleton, 4 minutes, 39 seconds. Ty Felleber, 4 minutes, 26 seconds. So really, Megan, over the course of that 60-minute game, we're actually probably playing closer to 10-6 than you were 11-7, just looking at how those minutes are distributed. And to the point that you made, I believe it was all the way back in the first intermission. That was not what you wanted on the first night of a back-to-back, going into a building tomorrow. You're traveling tonight, going into a building tomorrow against a team that is feeling themselves. Everything is going right for the Minnesota Wild this year. They sit ahead of you in the Central Division standings, and you know that they are going to be saying, we can win in regulation and extend that lead out here. It's a 4-point game tomorrow night. The Avs need to do themselves some favors, and I guarantee you, Jared Bednar is the person who is the most upset about having to play Nathan McKinnon 27 minutes, Mikko Rantanen 27 minutes, Cale Makar almost half the game. Jared Bednar is probably more upset about that than anybody.
Yeah, because it doesn't get easier. Not only are they playing against a rested Minnesota Wild team that has just won 4 straight, 5 points ahead of them in the Central, they also made their lives difficult by playing an exhausting game tonight. They get a more experienced goaltender in net, but there's really not much reinforcement coming their way. So they kind of have to live with their choices tomorrow. And to your point, it's wild that it's Winnipeg. 2 opponents they're chasing down in the Central. They left points on the table tonight. Those aren't going to be easy games. It's not to say they can't collect those points. This is, though, officially past the halfway point in the season, and their magic trick, with the Buffalo game. Now tonight, obviously, it's not something they can repeat. They don't really have a lot of runway left to be counting on exciting comebacks. And they don't necessarily have, to your point, the legs under them either to launch that kind of comeback. They had to play 11-7 tonight because Jonathan Drouin wasn't an option. Now, he could be an option tomorrow, but even still, they put themselves in a more difficult spot, and it's a little disappointing. It was avoidable.
Well, and yeah, like you said, they leave points on the table that they really needed on this road trip. I also want to make sure that I'm giving the context of you're still fine if you're the Colorado Avalanche. You're in the middle of an outstanding stretch right now. You just collected points in 8 straight. You're going to lose games over the course of an 82-game season. It happens. You want to try to avoid leaving points on the table and losing to opponents that you should beat as often as possible. And it feels like that is what happened here tonight. I want to get your thoughts on Trent Miner because I in the chat here, I see goaltending and injuries as the 2 most common excuses for tonight, almost like you didn't just get bodied by statistically the worst team. Rookie goalie's first start can't play like that for him. I don't think Trent Miner was, I don't necessarily think he was good tonight, but I also don't think he's the reason they lost tonight.
No, I was hoping for a stronger performance from Trent Miner. But I also look at how the goals against happen, and there's a lot of accountability past Trent Miner. And
as JJ would tell you, that's true of every goal because God forbid we say something about the goalies, JJ. Sorry.
Well, and so the accountability, you look at the way the goals happen. 1, the rebound opportunities that are allowed. We've seen with Mackenzie Blackwood the way in which he just settles rebounds, or the pucks are cleared from the net front quickly and second attempts aren't allowed because they're defending the house a lot better. Both of those things kind of have to be true. Trent Miner, rebound control, obviously not really happening in this game. But there is also something to be
It's not
said.
happening.
Not really happening in this game. It's his first NHL game. Okay, work with me, people. But the Avs aren't really defending the net very well either.
No.
That's part of the issue. So those second attempts only made possible because there's players in the crease that aren't being shoved out of there more violently. I don't think that's how I wanted to say that.
I think that's how you should have said it.
And that's part of the issue too. And rush chances being allowed too. They're late on their arrivals because there's turnovers at center ice that are leading to quick entries from Chicago. And so the players that are supposed to be there are pretty delayed in getting back. And that's kind of hanging your goalie out a little bit. And so there's a lot more that I wanted to see from Trent Miner tonight. But I'm also looking at the team in front of him.
Yep.
Those are not the kind of opportunities that should be allowed so much in any given game.
Yeah, you definitely wanted to see a little bit of a more stout defensive performance, knowing that Trent Miner is back there, knowing it was his first NHL start. But look, I just think that top to bottom, I really don't have I don't even really have much else to say about this game. It wasn't good enough. You're 0 for 2 on the power play. Like you said, Chicago's had some decent special teams, but on a night like tonight, you needed to find a way to break through on that. A combined 2 shots on goal for Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen. Guys just weren't good enough. Top to bottom, start to finish, just not good enough. Felt like they took their foot off the gas. Do you take this as playing down to your opponent, or do you think this was a game that maybe – because to me, playing down to your opponent means that you play sloppy, that you're engaged, but you're sloppy. Like truthfully, this is the exact type of game that Chicago wins. Take advantage of kind of, what's the word I'm looking for here? I keep wanting to say mishmash, but that's not a word.
I keep saying vulnerabilities to describe Chicago, like take advantage of Chicago's vulnerabilities.
That's a word.
No, it is.
Okay, all right.
It's a much kinder way of
saying they're not good.
They're not good.
Yeah. Chicago capitalizes on teams who are tired, who are asleep, who aren't playing the right way. I just took this as a game the Avs didn't have the legs. They weren't in it. They weren't engaged. They weren't there to compete at the level that they needed to. And hey, that happens over the course of an 82-game season. The Stanley Cup champion every year loses a game where they're blown out at some point in the regular season. So you're going to lose bad games, but I'm not concerned about this game, like kind of carrying forward bad habits.
No.
But it was just such a dud of an effort.
It's like they met Chicago where they were at / where they expected Chicago to be at. And so looking at both sides of the ice, both teams made mistakes that NHL teams probably shouldn't. But the difference being Chicago, you kind of expect them to make some of these mistakes because they're a young team that's still building some of that experience, and they don't quite have the same top-heavy talent that the Colorado Avalanche do right now. And that's why it feels less excusable, because the Avs should just, as a baseline, be better than Chicago. They have more maturity in that room. They have some of the star power up front, even playing 11-7. And it's like they lowered themselves to kind of the same level as Chicago when they could have been playing above it. And I'm not going to dwell on it too much more past tonight, to be honest. To your point, they were going to win and lose games past this point. The losses were going to be inevitable. It's just that they have a few of these in recent history, right? Not just exclusive to the Buffalo game, even the Montreal game being among them, that I was hoping for them to leave that in the first half of the season. So they have their work cut out for them. I'm not going to sweat it too much. I'm hard on them tonight. They need to respond in a big way tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. You just can't have a repeat effort like this. This is one of those, don't make the same mistake twice. You can make the mistake. That's fine. That's acceptable. It happens over the course of a long season. You can't do this twice. I agree with this comment here from Bailey. I think this was a bit of a trap game. And there's some people in the chat who are saying, how could it be a trap game? You need leadership. Trap game is a phrase for a reason. Every team falls into it. I think this might be one where I'm with Bagley a bit here. 8 in a row. You've had some miraculous comebacks. You've had some really exciting, fun wins. You're going into Chicago, and I just think that there was a little bit of there's a chance that the group was looking at, we'll go in, we'll take care of business, then get on to Minnesota. And you just looked past it just a little bit. And the one thing that we do need to remember, as we talk about their vulnerabilities, about, their depth, all that, these are still NHL players, Megan. This is still a collection of very good hockey players.
Well, and I talked about their special teams, and Colorado's power play process-wise, good first one, terrible second one, but Chicago's PK has a say in that. And I think that's kind of a reflection then of what happens there on the second one. It's just not good enough from Colorado. But to your point, Chicago has a say in this game. Connor Bedard, 8-game point streak, capitalizes off of a rush chance. It's just like, fork found in kitchen. Connor Bedard, he's on a hot streak right now after some criticism around the year that he's been having. He's finding his game. You don't want to let Connor Bedard get hot, and you don't want to let Razik settle into the game the way that he did, because he played excellent second period onward, just better by period, whereas the Avs got worse.
I do agree with the trap game thing, and this one right here in particular. Where's the leadership to say, let's go? And and I actually read that wrong, of like getting in the fight, not get in a fight. But this part right here, I actually will say, is a little bit of a disappointment for me in this game. Not that the leadership didn't step up before the game, but no, that we've just seen this team be able to go into an intermission, reset, regroup, come out with a different effort, push the pace, regain control of the game. And to the point that you made off the top, it actually just felt like kind of the opposite with each intermission. The intensity, the control, the effort, it was all just kind of collectively going down throughout the game. That was the part that maybe was a little bit disappointing to me, was why weren't they able to collect themselves in an intermission and come back out and say, hey, we looked past this. We were looking to Minnesota. Let's go. Let's collect ourselves and get back on the horse here.
Yeah, mature groups are capable of doing that. The Avs are a mature group. That is not in question, even after tonight, one game. But it would be if they start to do this as even more of a habit. Then it's just like a couple games here now, break the habit.
Yeah,
don't let there be any room for doubt that this is somehow a problem now that looms over the team, that they play down to competition.
Right.
Eliminate that commentary by winning these games moving forward.
Megan, I really don't have much else. There was not much in that game. Do you have any final thoughts on tonight? Did you already give your overall thoughts on Trent Miner? I think you did.
I did. Yeah. I wanted a little bit more, but I'm not blaming this game on him.
No, I actually think that's right where I am as well. The game is not lost because Trent Miner's in net, but that definitely was a hair disappointing. I was hoping for a little bit more steadiness, and especially against a team like this that is full of a lot of American League players. And I'm not trying to be funny or mean or anything like that. This is a team that is trying to finish as low as they can in the standings, add some more young talent to put around Connor Bedard. So they are just naturally going to have more players that on most other teams will probably fall into an American Hockey League lineup. So I was really hopeful. I thought this was a really good game for Trent Miner to get in. Don't think he was bad. But yeah, definitely could have been a little bit better. Those rebounds were, woof.
As I said, it just wasn't happening tonight. Rebound control, I've never heard of her.
Yeah.
But Kevin Manalese, healthy now for the Colorado Eagles, just returned to action. So that also makes things a little different for Trent Miner in the conversation. There was more to lose tonight and not having a standout performance, because Manalese has, at least at the American League level, more experience as a starter there. And so I think that is someone who still needs to get back into game action. But now he's back in the rotation as being a call-up option that could easily be swapped out at some point in the near future. So I'm sure Trent Miner is going to take away a lot from this game.
Not to mention Scott Wedgwood already skating and getting some reps in. So this is one of those moments that for Trent Miner, who's been a young player climbing the ranks at every level, needs to make the most of his time when he's up with the NHL club. They were goalied. You realize Chicago has beaten the Avs 8 of the last 10 games.
This is that Mrazek conversation all over again.
Well, and the comment that came through earlier that said, because seriously, I remember that back in the mid-2010s, Chicago was unstoppable until they played the last place in the Western Conference Avs, and they just could not do it. Semyon Varlamov had their number. It was just this really weird dynamic between, one of the closest things that we've seen to a dynasty in the NHL in the last 15 to 20 years. but they couldn't beat the Avs
Yeah.
when they were really bad. So it's just kind of the same thing.
Hockey is weird.
Hockey
Rogue
is weird. We got another super chat from Bagley to wrap up the show tonight. No hitting, perhaps a little dirtbaggery
That's
is
great
all right
news.
tonight.
That's great news
You know
because
what?
I don't know anything different.
Megan was born a dirtbag. She lives her life a dirtbag. And hey, it's just that life.
It's a way of life.
It's just that life. And hey, you know what? After watching a game like that, I might need to go get into some dirtbaggery just to feel something again.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Big thank you to Bagley again. And we got our good luck cat here as well. Hey, that was your commercial.
Big stretch.
I just saw your commercial on TV. Mark helped film a commercial for a big car company that's on the television right now. How cool was that? I love that. Wow, that was what a great way to end the show.
That's a great way to
That's
end
a great
the
way to end the
show.
show. Guys, we're gonna get out of here for tonight. What is today? Wednesday? Nothing from us tomorrow in particular. And then we'll be back at it Friday. What a lie I just told.
Tomorrow.
What a liar I am.
That's some dirtbag behavior.
See, I told you.
You're off to a
I was
good
just
start.
feeling it. I was feeling it. Yes, it is a Wheatus music video. I am just a teenage dirtbag. Just remember that. We'll be back right here in these same seats tomorrow. Avs, Minnesota, taking on the Wild to try to make up for this game. So, yeah, don't listen to what I said before. Listen to what I said just now once Megan caught me. We'll be back right here tomorrow doing this same thing and then back at it for the pod on Friday. That will do it for us here tonight. She's Meghan Angley. I'm Jesse Montano. That's Mark behind the glass, making sure you guys can see us and hear us. We're out of here for tonight. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Have a safe, warm evening. Take it easy, everybody.